Always a delight to have you on. I am Pius Kojobaka. Let's now settle for the details. And the Ghana Association of Banks has expressed worry about the long duration it takes for the court to give judgment on cases between barred borrowers and banks. According to its chief executive, John Lewa, this is hampering the ability of banks to have adequate liquidity to lend to the real sector of the economy, particularly medium and small businesses. His comment is coming at a time non-performing loans reached 20%, the highest since the last 5 years. Speaking at a webinar organized by the Chartered Institute of Banking titled Banking the Real Economy, Mr. Wa said some of the country's institutional organizations have contributed to the high default rate in the country.
To touch on one or two of the key inhibitions in the system that really worries the financial system when they are giving access to financing or providing liquidity to operators in the SME environment is the number one is our institutional organizations, the structures, our judicial system, the Lands Commission, Environmental Protection Agency, all these pockets of institutions who all play key roles in making sure that funding to the SME is de-risked at the minimum. Of course, you cannot remove the risk entirely, but it's the risk to the level where a bank will say, oh, I'm accepting this residual risk. It's more or less the business that I do. And you don't give 100 and expect that you get an entire 100. There's always that possibility or probability of default that you will encounter. But when there is default, the problems the banking system goes through to ensure recovery so that they have liquidity to give to the next SME is where the challenge is. So as a bank, when you are operating and you have this SME who you gave a loan to 18 months ago, all of a sudden, due to one or two issues, the loan is distressed, you want to ensure recovery so that you can make that fund available to the next good SME. You go to the court system and it takes you 4 or 5 years. 4 or 5 years to ensure a common recovery. You are holding mortgage documentation. You go to Lands Commission and that mortgage is being remortgaged to somebody else, or that mortgage has been sold, or it's been, all kinds of things happening in these big national institutions. Sometimes it baffles us, the manner in which some of these big institutions, talking about Lands Commission, a trusted institution, just like the banking system, the judicial system, a trusted institution, and you go to the law courts and the way lawyers are playing the banks. One case, you can go to court 180 times and you will not have judgments because the lawyer comes today, tomorrow he says, I'm traveled, I have funeral, I have this, and there's tolerance within this environment that emboldens borrowers in a manner that when they borrow and they default, they become giants. They have money, you the bank, you are now chasing them. So it provides a layer of difficulty for the bank.
Chief Executive of the Chartered Institute of Bankers, Robert Jacho, said his outfit will continue to play a major role to ensure liquidity is readily available to support the economy.
These are engines of growth and employment in this sector or in the economy of our country. They contribute significantly in employment and certainly to our GDP. And therefore, we think that it's important to find a balance. And I'm hoping that the panel members here will, and of course, there are SME communities that have joined us on this call, will find some way of cracking the code on how to really extend credit and support the real economy. And I think that's an important conversation, and that's our motivation. We are hoping that we can find some real solutions today.
ARB Apex Bank is supporting some of its members in the rural areas to acquire armored vehicles to be used for transporting cash through the country. Now, the move is to help the community and rural banks meet Bank of Ghana's deadline for banks to transport funds in bullion vans by the end of November this year. Speaking to Joy Business, board chairman of ARB Apex Bank, Dr. Tony Obin, said some are using cost-cutting measures to get the vehicles on the road before the deadline.
We are inching towards meeting the Bank of. For the Apex Bank, definitely we'll meet that, because you know our rural banks don't go to Bank of Ghana. They don't have vault in Bank of Ghana. Their vault is in Apex Bank. So for them, we are supporting them to retrofit those who have vehicles that are less than 3 years old. We provide them with support to retrofit these vehicles into armored bullion level. So that's what we are doing. Those who are good enough to buy their own, they are buying. I know one or two of the banks are actually capable of buying 1 or 2 bullion vans for themselves. So they are complying. It's a major cost, but I think it's a cost that you can, amortize over the period. The benefit will also come, because the risk of hauling money or cutting money through vehicles that are not secured and being attacked by armed robbers, that is more dangerous than having a little bit expensive van, but in the future you can always have the cost covered.
Economist Dr. Patrick Esumeng has ruled out any significant impact of Cocoa Board's decision to raise about $800 million as part of its cocoa syndication program on the cedi. Now, according to him, the move will not in any way have an impact on the strength of the local currency, although the cocoa syndicated loan is a significant foreign exchange inflow for government. Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Nes Addison, who disclosed this, explained that the decision is to support the purchase of cocoa beans for the next crop season. But speaking to Joy Business, Dr. Esumeng said the expected syndicated loan will not affect the performance of the cedi.
The way I see it is that we take this loan to purchase the cocoa that has been produced. Don't forget that this is the start of the major purchase season. So I see more. It's not like they take the loan and they use it to expand. In the last couple of years, we've had challenges with people selling their, cocoa farms for galamsey, and we've had challenges with supply of fertilizers to cocoa farming. So I think those are the ones that pose significant challenges to production. You expect that in a year where we've seen a significant increase in the producer price, we should anticipate that next year production will be higher. But, again, if you are not able to address the supply side constraints that cocoa farmers face by way of supply of fertilizer and related inputs, we've seen from the recent summary of economic and financial data, the country is earning a lot more from other sources. We realize that compared to last year, we've written more, and also at the moment, because of the debt restructuring, we are not really paying off our foreign debt. We are not servicing the foreign loans. So, in some sense, even though ordinarily it should have been bad news for the currency, but because of our current circumstances, probably only have much of an impact.
Away from that to some other stories, co-chair of the Ghana Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, Dr. Steve Mantel, has advocated for the use of the beneficial ownership disclosure data to demand accountability from both government and companies in the extractive industries. Speaking at a dissemination workshop on the 2020 Mining, Oil and Gas Report, Dr. Mantel said such a reporting requirement would help tackle corruption, among others. Precious Emevo reports.
Ghana Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative (GREDA) and GIZ Stakeholder Dissemination Workshop in Sunyani discussed the 2020 reports on the mining and oil and gas sectors and the non-physical revenue pathways to optimizing benefits in Ghana's mining sector. Co-chair of GREDA, Dr. Steve Mantel, notes that transparency and accountability in the payment and revenues in the extractive sector have been deepened since Ghana signed on to the EITI in 2003. He, however, said other teething issues like Corrupt Act and unaccountable revenue collections could be managed with the use of beneficial ownership disclosure data.
One of the ways of reducing corruption, tackling illicit financial flows, transfer pricing, and under-invoicing in the extractive sector, among others, is to use beneficial ownership disclosure data to demand accountability from both government and companies. Beneficial ownership is a new reporting requirement and was introduced in 2019 by the EITI to encourage more relevant, more reliable, and more usable information, as well as provide better linkages to wider country anti-corruption reforms. Gaity's intervention through advocating fiscal reforms, especially with respect to royalties, corporate income tax, among others, has resulted in savings of about $713 million in additional revenues to the state.
He also called for guidelines to ensure the prudent use of mineral royalties to benefit communities.
As we produce the reports on mining sector in particular, we find that in most of the mining communities, their share of mineral royalties are used on recurrent expenditure items, such as garbage collection, painting of office buildings, stationery, and stuff like that. Now, if you continue to use revenues derived from non-renewable resources in this manner, chances are that you continue to mine for over a century and will see no real benefits. So going forward, our suggestion or recommendation is for the state to develop some guidelines to ensure that community share of mineral royalties are put to prudent use.
Bono Regional Minister Justina Osu-Banahene stressed the need for a lot more to be done to curb illegal extractions for sustainable development. Precious Semevo, Joy Business, Sunyai.
Now, the Ghana Real Estate Developers Association, GREDA, has bemoaned the increasing cases of money laundering activities in Ghana and West Africa. According to its Executive Secretary, Sami Amegaibo, money laundering activities are gradually creeping into the real estate industry. He is therefore urging property developers to make extensive research on clients to help combat this menace.
Now, I want to bring you to a very sensitive issue that is creeping into the industry. It has to do with money laundering. Money laundering is gradually creeping into our industry. Last year, November 26th precisely, I participated in a workshop in Senegal under Giaba, which is a sub of FATF, which is interested in fighting money laundering worldwide. And at that meeting, it came out clear that West Africa is experiencing a creep, an insurgence of money launderers into our industry. And for that matter, it is important that all of us take part in the measures or the mitigating measures against money laundering in our own interest. And then also beneficial ownership. We need to be careful as estate developers and property sellers that the issue of beneficial ownership is critical these days, and that there's a requirement on us in the process of selling our properties to take adequate information on the people we sell properties to as part of the measures in fighting money laundering.
You're still watching Business Live here with me, Pius Kojo Baka. We are taking a break. When we return, there'll be more. Hello, welcome back. Let's now touch on some Agric-related stories. As part of efforts to safeguard Ghana's marine life and prevent further depletion of fish stock, Deputy Minister of Fisheries and Aquaculture, Moses Enim, has emphasized the significance of implementing policies aligned with the Ghana National Development Plan 2024 and 2028. Speaking at the launch of the 39th edition of the National Farmers' Day celebration, he reiterated government's commitment to preserve activities in the sector.
The first Friday of December every year is earmarked as National Farmers' Day. In 2021, the day's celebration moved to a week's observation with a number of activities ahead of the day. Speaking at the launch of the 39th edition of the National Farmers' Day celebration, Deputy Minister of Fisheries and Aquaculture, Moses Enim, echoed efforts to improve the fisheries sector.
To address these challenges and harness the opportunities in the sector, especially the aquaculture industry, The Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture Development is pursuing short, medium, and long-term measures to sustainably manage the fisheries resources and develop the aquaculture industry. This includes formulation of new national fisheries and aquaculture policy for the sector, the development of the Marine Fisheries Management Plan 2023 to 2026 to restore depleted fish stocks and improve governance in the sector, the development of the Ghana National Aquaculture Development Plan 2024-2028 to help improve the practice management and sustainable development of aquaculture as a viable business.
Deputy Minister for Food and Agriculture, Yao Frimpong Addo, highlighted the importance of National Farmers' Day celebration.
The issue of land ownership, limited access to market and financial services, effects of climate change, post-harvest losses, high cost of inputs, and low return on investment, among others, should make us appreciate our farmers even more. Beyond our appreciation, respect, and admiration for the efforts of our farmers and fishers, we must fulfill our obligation of creating the necessary environment through policy interventions and other incentives to motivate our farmers to play their role more effectively. As an imperative, we must demonstrate more sensitivity to the needs of our farmers to enable them to optimize productivity and attain a high level of competitiveness derived from the efficient use of resources and technology.
In 2022, the celebration took place in the Eastern region, and this year it's set to unfold in the Western region. The Western Regional Minister, Kwabena Ochreda Komensa, called for increased investments in coconut and rice production within the region.
Western region produces 98% of Ghana's rubber. The Western region produces 80% of Ghana's coconut. The Western region produces 35% of Ghana's oil palm. We have also started the enhanced rice projects. So we have a lot of opportunities when it comes to coconut and then rice. I just want to mention these two so that you can remember. So anybody who is interested to invest in these areas, contact the Western Regional Coordinating Council and we'll be there to support you to succeed. On that note, I wholeheartedly accept the challenge in hosting the Farmers' Day.
This year's National Farmers' Day celebration is themed Delivering Smart Solutions for Sustainable Food Security and Resilience.
And some farmers in the northern region are calling on the regulatory authority to issue permits for the commercialization of BT cowpea. According to the farmers, with the trials they have conducted, there is huge difference in yield and the insect control between the BT and the conventional cowpea. They are therefore asking government to quicken the process.
Cowpea is widely consumed by many Ghanaians. It is used for dishes ranging from garri and beans to tubani in northern Ghana. But over the years, farmers have faced challenges of the Maruca pest when it is time for farming. This forces farmers to spray their farms up to 12 times before harvest. This does not only affect the farmer, but also the consumer because of the dose of chemicals applied. It is against this backdrop that the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research has conducted a research to produce the BT cowpea to tackle the Maruca pest challenge. Speaking at Nyankpala on one of the trial fields, some farmers called on government to commercialize the new variety.
The cost of the chemical. So as a farmer, it seems it was a lot of problems for us. And we couldn't even get, at the end, you won't even get good yield from the field. When we're doing it, if you do 1 acre, I mean with the local one, quarter, you won't even get $5 because of the Maruca. You spray a lot, you spray more than 8 times, 10 times, because of the insects you couldn't even get. But now, this one, the scientific one, is very, very nice. Because when they brought it, if you farm and then you spray twice, you harvest a lot. You get good yield from it because it doesn't affect the maruka. That one, the actual. Theirs is very, very different.
Ama ngoma nguna disease sa ka chom ku wanda gare face ma dana ma so ngoma wala gam simzane de varma ba yala ka wal zen yalanga ma wanda ngoma wanda zen yalanga garda da ma dan ma.
And that's it for Business Live for today. I am Pius Kojo Baka. Do enjoy the rest of our programs. Bye.